Vanessa Price threw the invoices onto the floor in front of dozens of employees. You were hired to add numbers, not question the people who create value for this company. Nora quietly bent down and collected each page. Vanessa did not know that the woman she had just humiliated was about to gain the power to decide the future of Carrington and Vale. The lobby of the Chicago headquarters was being decorated for the anniversary celebration. Nora wore a simple gray business suit, with an old leather bag beside her desk. In front of her was an invoice for $86,000 labeled campaign accessories. "I cannot approve this," Nora said. "The vendor identification has not been verified, and the deposit matches the amount of a personal jewelry order." Vanessa looked her up and down. "An hourly accountant cannot understand the luxury industry. You should remember your place." No one spoke. Rosa Alvarez stood beside the computer, her hand trembling as Vanessa pushed the invoice toward her. "If Ellis refuses to sign, you sign it." Nora immediately stepped forward and wrote her own name in the section marked "Approval Refused." "Send every question about this expense directly to me." Rosa was not involved in the decision. She examined the supporting documents one by one. The item listed as a brand display has the exact measurements of a wedding dress. The market research trip took place at the resort, hosting a bachelorette party. 3 vendors use addresses connected to your friends, and 1 company has no employees or business location. Vanessa's face lost color before she quickly restored her cold expression. Nora continued looking directly at her. "You can withdraw the personal invoices, repay the money, and allow the auditors to handle this internally before the records are sent to the board." That was Vanessa's opportunity to stop. Instead, she leaned close to Nora. "You are threatening the chief executive officer's fiancée. I will make sure no one in Chicago ever hires you again." Adrian Cole appeared from the executive hallway. Nora explained the irregularities and handed him the vendor comparison, along with 2 payments carrying his electronic signature. Adrian read them quickly. His eyes paused on Vanessa's name before moving toward the decorated lobby. "Approve them temporarily. We will resolve everything after the event." "We can postpone a celebration," Nora answered. "We cannot sign the truth after the fact." Adrian lowered his voice. "You are exceeding your authority. Do not take this to the board before the anniversary." Nora's phone vibrated. She stepped aside to answer a call from Margaret Shaw. "I need one more night," Nora said quietly. The voting authority should not be activated yet. As she put away the phone, a brass key engraved with the Carrington and Vale symbol and the initials T and C slipped from an inner pocket. Harold Vale was walking past. He looked at the key, then studied Nora's face longer than usual. She quickly returned it to her leather bag. Across the lobby, Vanessa pulled Chloe Bennett into the dressing room and handed her a velvet box containing a diamond bracelet. "Take this to the preparation room. Put it inside Ellis's coat pocket." Chloe stepped back. "What if the cameras record me?" "I decide whether your contract continues. Either do this or do not return tomorrow." Trembling, Chloe carried Nora's coat into the dressing room. Voices in the hallway frightened her. The bracelet slipped from her hand and fell beneath the vanity without her noticing. The cameras had already recorded Vanessa handing her the box, and Chloe carrying Nora's coat into the room. By evening, the lobby was crowded with guests, employees, and business partners. Vanessa suddenly stepped onto the stage and announced that the bracelet had disappeared after Nora entered the preparation area. "I demand that security search her bag right here." Every eye turned toward Nora. She did not shout or resist. "Record the reason for the search, the name of the person ordering it, and everyone present as a witness." After security confirmed the procedure, Nora placed her bag on the table. One item after another was removed before the crowd: a notebook, glasses, a phone, and invoices. There was no bracelet. A soft metallic sound broke the silence. The brass key fell onto the table. Vanessa immediately picked it up. "She has also stolen a company antique?" Nora took the key back, her voice still controlled. "This belongs to my family." "What family?" Vanessa mocked. "A low-level employee who does not know her place now claims she is connected to Carrington?" Adrian stood between them. He could have stopped the event, ordered a search for the bracelet, and investigated who had demanded the public inspection. Instead, he looked toward the reporters raising their cameras. "Nora Ellis is suspended to prevent further damage to the company's reputation. Revoke her access badge and escort her from the building." A security officer removed the badge from Nora's lanyard. Before leaving, she turned toward Rosa and the accounting employees. "No one is permitted to search their bags or punish Rosa simply because she worked with me. Add that request to the official record." The glass doors closed behind Nora. The cold Chicago wind struck her face, but she continued walking with her back straight and the brass key held tightly in her hand. Her phone rang. Margaret spoke from the other end of the call. "The review is complete. Your authorization to control 52% of the voting rights is now active. The board is expecting you tomorrow morning." Nora looked up at the brightly illuminated floors of Carrington and Vale. That evening, they believed they had thrown an accountant out of the company. The following morning, they would have to open the doors for the woman who now controlled the entire board. The following morning, Nora returned to Carrington and Vale. Her employee badge had been deactivated, and the security officer who had taken it from her stood in front of the entrance. "Miss Ellis, you are currently suspended. I was invited to attend the board meeting." Before he could answer, Margaret Shaw entered carrying a sealed envelope. "Please clear the entrance for the controlling shareholder." The security officer froze. At the same moment, the events department reported that the diamond bracelet had been found beneath the vanity in Vanessa's dressing room. The discovery proved that Nora had not taken it, but it did not explain why the bracelet had appeared there. Inside the boardroom, Adrian was telling Harold Vale that a female accountant had been suspended for interfering with executive operations and behaving suspiciously. Vanessa sat outside the door, believing the board was about to terminate Nora's employment. The door opened. Nora entered beside Margaret with the brass key in her hand. Margaret placed the envelope on the table. Under the will of Thomas Carrington, the Carrington Legacy Trust has completed its evaluation period. Nora Ellis, his only granddaughter, is the sole beneficiary and holds voting authority over 52% of the company's shares. Harold looked at the key engraved with the initials T and C. Then he recognized the features Nora shared with her late mother. The room became silent as the accountant, who had been called a low-level employee who did not know her place, walked toward the seat, reserved for the controlling shareholder. Nora did not smile at the reversal. Vanessa jumped to her feet. Adrian could not speak. Nora did not demand that anyone be dismissed. Restore my access to the records, preserve every email, security recording, and payment file. Suspend the related expenses and establish an independent investigative committee. Vanessa and Adrian will have the right to legal representation and the opportunity to respond. She looked at each board member. I did not pretend to be poor to test anyone's character. The will required the beneficiary's identity to remain confidential until the evaluation was complete. I performed the work I was qualified to do, accepted the proper salary, and did not use the voting authority before it became active. Nora, Margaret, and the auditors went down to the archive room. The brass key opened the founder's records cabinet, which contained the approved vendor list, the trust charter, and rules prohibiting undisclosed transactions with related parties. A comparison of the records showed that 3 of Vanessa's vendors had never been reviewed. 2 companies had transferred money to accounts connected to her close friends. The wedding dress deposit had been divided into several smaller invoices to avoid the approval threshold. The total amount under suspicion was far greater than the $86,000 Nora had refused to authorize. Inside a private office, Chloe sat across from the committee with her hands tightly clasped. At first, she said that she had only followed instructions concerning wardrobe preparation. Nora did not promise her immunity. You have the right to consult an attorney. During the investigation, Vanessa is prohibited from dismissing you or contacting you in an attempt to apply pressure. Chloe looked at the woman she had nearly helped frame. That protection caused her to begin crying. She unlocked her phone and surrendered Vanessa's message. Put the bracelet inside Ellis's coat pocket. I carried the bracelet into the room, but I heard people outside and panicked. I dropped it before I could follow the order. Vanessa entered with her attorney and immediately blamed Chloe. She acted on her own to impress me. The message could have been fabricated. Mobile carrier records confirmed that the message had originated from Vanessa's phone. However, the independent attorney required a complete examination of the device and the evidence chain before reaching a conclusion. Adrian denied knowing about the fraud. I asked for the investigation to be delayed to protect the anniversary celebration, but I never saw clear evidence. The door opened. Marcus Lee entered carrying 3 warnings that had been sent to Adrian concerning vendors connected to Vanessa. Each document showed confirmation that the Chief Executive Officer's office had received it. Before the data was examined, Rosa asked to speak with Nora privately. If you truly had this power, she said, you could have intervened earlier. We lived in fear for months while you waited for enough evidence. Nora did not defend herself. You are right. My caution allowed other people to carry the risk for me. That same afternoon, she established temporary protection for every person reporting misconduct. Retaliation was prohibited, and no employee could be pressured into signing an invoice while the investigation continued. Rosa and the accounting department had all of their working authority restored. The committee continued comparing the 3 warnings. Adrian had marked the first 2 as resolved. The third had been opened on a device registered to him. 11 minutes later, the Chief Executive Officer's account approved another transfer to one of Vanessa's vendors. Adrian stared at the screen. My assistant may have had access to the account. That is possible, Nora answered. For that reason, you will have the right to provide the device logs and your explanation before the board reaches any conclusion. She placed the warning beside the approval timestamp. But if you never saw the warning, why did your signature appear immediately after it was opened? Adrian remained silent. Beyond the glass doors, employees were gathering for the shareholder meeting scheduled to continue that afternoon. The question was no longer whether love had simply made Adrian blind. It was how much company money he had knowingly helped Vanessa conceal. Adrian remained silent as the auditorium doors opened. Employees, shareholders, and members of the press filled every row. Nora instructed the committee to release only information that had been verified and to avoid interfering with the legal investigation. Adrian spoke first. "This review is unfair. Miss Ellis concealed her identity and gathered information while her co-workers did not know they were being evaluated. I delayed the investigation only to protect the company from public scandal." Nora did not mention the public search of her bag. "If the only issue were the things Vanessa said to me, I could defend myself. But this money belongs to the company, and your silence prevented other people from defending themselves." Margaret presented the will, the trust records, and the authorization granting Nora control over 52% of the voting rights. Harold confirmed that the board had approved the evaluation in advance. Nora had not created a secret test to trap anyone. She had followed the founder's confidentiality requirements. The auditors presented the divided invoices, the money transfers, and the vendors connected to Vanessa's friends. Security footage showed Vanessa giving the jewelry box to Chloe, followed by Chloe carrying Nora's coat into the dressing room. The message, "Put the bracelet inside Ellis's coat pocket," appeared on the screen beside confirmation from the mobile service provider. Sitting beside her attorney, Chloe admitted that she had carried the bracelet into the room, but dropped it beneath the vanity before completing the order. The events department had found it in that exact location, disproving the accusation that Nora had stolen it. Vanessa received the opportunity to respond. "Some of the expenses were personal, but my wedding and public image also promoted the brand. I only wanted to prevent the anniversary celebration from being ruined." Nora asked, "If the invoices were legitimate, why did you try to frame the person who discovered them?" Vanessa lowered her eyes. "I was under pressure. I was afraid of losing everything I had built." Her explanation did not erase the missing money or the attempt to accuse an innocent employee. Marcus stepped forward with the 3 warnings sent to Adrian. The system records confirmed that the 3rd warning had been opened on a device assigned to the chief executive officer. 11 minutes later, Adrian's account approved another payment to one of Vanessa's vendors. Adrian took a deep breath. "I read the warning. Vanessa promised to repay the money after the wedding. I did not receive a single dollar, and I believed we could handle the matter internally without destroying the company's reputation." "But you did not report it to the board," Harold said. "No." Adrian lowered his head. "I place personal loyalty above my responsibility to the company." The room became silent. His admission did not prove that he had participated in taking the money, but it confirmed that he had knowingly ignored the warning and allowed the payments to continue. The board voted before the employees and shareholders. Adrian was removed for violating his management responsibilities. Vanessa was suspended and lost all authority to approve company spending. The records were transferred to forensic auditors and law enforcement authorities. Neither person was declared criminally guilty inside the auditorium, and both retained the right to respond through the legal process. When Harold asked who would lead the company, every eye turned toward Nora. With 52% of the voting rights, she could have appointed herself chief executive officer. "I nominate an independent interim chief executive officer," Nora said. "I will serve as executive chairwoman during the restructuring period. Controlling authority should never place anyone beyond oversight." She announced a new system. An outside organization would manage the reporting line for misconduct. The audit committee would report directly to the board. Transactions involving relatives or close personal connections had to be disclosed. Supervisors could no longer pressure employees into signing invoices. Any search of personal property required a documented reason and an independent observer. Employees who had suffered retaliation would have their rights and positions restored. Money recovered from the fraudulent contracts allowed Carrington and Vale to keep its artisan workshop open, protecting the jobs supporting dozens of families. Part of the budget was assigned to a furniture craftsmanship apprenticeship program for young people facing financial hardship in Chicago. 6 months later, Vanessa was formally charged based on the audit results, the messages, and witness testimony. Her case would be decided under the law, not according to Nora's anger. Adrian was not charged with taking company funds because there was no evidence that he had received a personal benefit. However, he faced a civil lawsuit for violating his management duties and permanently lost his position at the company. Chloe received disciplinary action for participating in the attempt to frame Nora. Her cooperation was considered, but she was transferred to a position with no authority over company property. After an independent review, Marcus became head of internal auditing. Rosa kept her job, had her professional reputation restored, and joined the Employee Ethics Advisory Council. During the first budget meeting of the new year, a young accountant noticed an unclear expense. She raised her hand, then quickly lowered it when the executives turned toward her. Nora did not interrupt her or demand that she stand. She pulled an empty chair toward the table, opened the file, and said, "At this company, asking a question is not disrespectful. It is how we protect one another." Thomas Carrington's brass key rested beside the meeting records. It was no longer a symbol of secret privilege. It had become a reminder of responsibility. The woman once dismissed as a low-level employee who did not know her place had proven that the person most worthy of authority was not the one who spoke the loudest. It was the person who understood whom power could harm and chose to use it to protect them.